Alright, let's beef things up a bit. Hold on to your thinking caps, folks, because we're about to embark on a philosophical journey that's longer, deeper, and even more mind-blowingly fun. Ever catch yourself staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., pondering the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? Congratulations, you've accidentally stumbled into philosophy. Welcome to Philosopher's, where we'll be doing that on purpose. This time, we're not just learning about philosophy. We're becoming philosophical ninjas, masters of critical thinking and intellectual combat. Our mission, should you choose to accept it, and you kind of have to, since you're here, is to unravel the enigma of what is philosophy, anyway? I'll share my perspective. Think of it as philosophy, the unauthorized biography, and then we'll compare and contrast it with other fields of study. It's like a philosophical battle royal, but with fewer bruises and more brainpower. Imagine building a Lego masterpiece. You could just wing it, randomly slapping bricks together. But a philosopher, a true Lego sensei, would pause and ask, what defines a Lego creation? Is it the individual bricks, the overall structure, or the builder's intent? Does a pile of disassembled Legos still hold the potential for greatness? See, we're already getting deep, and maybe a little obsessed with Legos. Now, you might argue, don't all subjects strive for accurate thinking? Touch. But philosophy is like the ultimate referee of thought. It's the meta-level, the behind-the-scenes director, the quality control department of the mind. While a physicist meticulously measures subatomic particles, a noble pursuit to be sure, the philosopher steps back and asks, how do we know those measurements are accurate? What are the underlying assumptions of our scientific methods? And what does accurate even mean in a universe that might be a giant hologram? So whoa. Let's hop in our time-traveling DeLorean and zoom back to the Middle Ages. Imagine a medieval doctor diagnosing a patient with an excess of black bile. Sounds ridiculous now, right? But back then, it was cutting-edge medical theory. A philosopher at the time might have raised an eyebrow and asked, is a black bile a well-defined concept? Does it actually explain anything? Or is it just a fancy name for don't know? What other factors might be contributing to this illness? Maybe it's not demons, or maybe it is. That kind of questioning ultimately paved the way for modern medicine. Philosophy can challenge our thinking from two directions: from the inside, by scrutinizing our own beliefs and assumptions, and from the outside, when empirical evidence forces us to revise our understanding of the world. Think of the mind-blowing discoveries in quantum physics that shattered classical notions of cause and effect. Suddenly, the universe seemed less like a clockwork mechanism and more like a cosmic dance of probabilities. Thanks, philosophy of science, for helping us wrap our heads around that. This constant back and forth, this relentless questioning and refining of our understanding is what makes philosophy so vital and so much fun. It's a never-ending quest to find the best ways to think about everything from the mundane to the profound. And trust me, the journey is just as important as the destination. So, gear up for an intellectual exploration, philosophical debates, and mind-expanding insights. We'll be tackling classic philosophical arguments, wrestling with ethical dilemmas, and exploring the nature of reality itself. By the end of this course, you won't just be thinking about philosophy, you'll be a philosopher, and that, my friends, is a superpower. Alright, philosophy enthusiasts. Let's strap on our intellectual hiking boots and prepare for an even more epic expedition into the vast and challenging terrain of philosophical thought. We've established that philosophy is the ultimate mental marathon, a relentless pursuit of truth and understanding that demands we question everything, even and especially the things we take for granted. But let's delve even deeper into the intricate caverns and hidden valleys of this fascinating field. Imagine philosophy as the ultimate why machine, a relentless interrogator that bombards us with questions until our comfortable assumptions crumble into dust. It's like having a hyperactive toddler permanently attached to your brain, constantly demanding why about everything you see, hear, and think. But unlike that adorable yet exhausting child, philosophy doesn't just ask the questions, it demands answers, or at least a rigorous and systematic exploration of possible answers. And because thinking itself is the very substance of philosophy, these questions can ambush us anywhere, at any time. You could be pondering the free will vs. determinism debate while brushing your teeth, contemplating the nature of consciousness while waiting for the bus, or grappling with existential dread while trying to decipher the instructions for assembling flat-pack furniture, a truly Sisyphean task that deserves its own philosophical treatise. This question-everything ethos is what makes philosophy so intellectually demanding and so incredibly rewarding. It's not a passive activity, it's an active, engaged struggle with complex ideas, a mental wrestling match with the greatest thinkers in history. Imagine scaling a sheer cliff face of abstract thought, clinging precariously to handholds of logic and reason, while battling the fierce winds of doubt and uncertainty. It's a challenging climb, but the panoramic views from the summit are well worth the effort. Why is philosophy so difficult? Well, imagine trying to explain something you do instinctively, like walking or speaking your native language. You perform these actions effortlessly, but articulating the underlying principles and processes is surprisingly challenging. Philosophy often forces us to dissect things we normally take for granted, our beliefs about right and wrong, the nature of knowledge, the meaning of life itself. It's like trying to explain the intricate rules of grammar to someone who's spoken the language fluently their entire life, but has never consciously considered its structure. But this very difficulty underscores the profound importance of philosophical inquiry. If no one had ever dared to question the self-evident truth of the earth being flat, we might still be clinging to the edges of the world in fear of falling off. If no one had challenged the deeply ingrained belief in the divine right of kings, we might still be living under tyrannical rule. Progress, both intellectual and moral, often requires us to confront our cherished assumptions and embrace the discomfort of radical questioning. Throughout history, societies have clung to beliefs and practices that now seem barbaric and incomprehensible: slavery, witch trials, the systematic oppression of marginalized groups. These atrocities were often justified by philosophical frameworks that seemed perfectly logical and morally sound at the time. It was only through the courageous efforts of philosophers and reformers who dared to challenge the prevailing orthodoxy that these injustices were eventually exposed and condemned. So, which of our contemporary beliefs and practices might future generations view with the same mixture of horror and bewilderment? Our treatment of animals in factory farms, our insatiable appetite for consumer goods and its impact on the planet, our addiction to social media and the erosion of privacy, the growing gap between the rich and the poor. It's impossible to predict with certainty, but by immersing ourselves in the rigorous discipline of philosophical inquiry, by cultivating a habit of critical thinking, self-reflection, and open-mindedness, we increase our chances of identifying and rectifying our own ethical blind spots before they lead to disaster. Philosophy isn't about memorizing abstract theories or blindly accepting the pronouncements of ancient sages, although their wisdom can certainly illuminate our path. It's about developing the intellectual tools to analyze arguments, evaluate evidence, construct your own well-reasoned positions, and defend them with clarity and conviction. It's about learning to think for yourself, to question authority, to embrace intellectual humility, and to navigate the complexities of life with wisdom and grace. This isn't just a passive reception of philosophical ideas, it's an active transformation of your mind. It's about becoming a philosopher, a critical thinker, a lifelong learner, a more engaged and informed citizen of the world. So, prepare to stretch your mental muscles, expand your horizons, and embark on an intellectual odyssey that will change the way you see everything. The adventure of a lifetime awaits. Let's embark on a grand adventure into the wonderfully weird and often mind-blowing world of philosophy. Now, before you conjure up images of dusty old books and professors with elbow patches, let me assure you philosophy is anything but boring. It's about asking why, about everything from the mundane to the profound, and developing the mental muscles to tackle life's biggest puzzles. And guess what? You're already a philosopher, even if you don't know it yet. Think about it, you're at a crossroads, deciding whether to spend your evening basking in the cinematic glow of the silver screen. Your brain, like a tiny Sherlock Holmes, starts gathering evidence. Aha! The theater has those mouth-watering, perfectly salted hot dogs. Then the internal debate begins. But wait, I'm striving for vegetarian enlightenment. Though, those hot dogs are singing a siren song. Finally, after much deliberation, you reach a verdict. Movie night it is. Ding, 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 you just unknowingly constructed a philosophical argument. Don't worry, it's not as intimidating as it sounds. It simply means you used reasons of the irresistible year of hot dogs to support your conclusion of cinema time. But here's where the real magic of philosophy happens. It's not just about building arguments, it's about stress testing them, poking holes in their logic like a mischievous gremlin, and seeing if they can withstand the intellectual onslaught. What if, upon arriving at the theater, you discover the hot dogs are in fact culinary travesties? Or what if your wallet is emptier than a philosopher's pockets after a particularly intense existential crisis, and you're desperately trying to save money? Suddenly, your seemingly airtight hot dog argument crumbles like a stale cookie. This process, critically examining our own reasoning and that of others, is the very essence of philosophical thinking. Now, imagine scaling up this process to tackle questions that have baffled humankind for centuries. Questions like, do we actually have free will, or are we just sophisticated robots playing out a predetermined script? Enter the philosophical heavyweights, armed with arguments that could make your head spin faster than a top in a tornado. One might argue that because the past dictates the future, we're all just puppets dancing to the tune of fate, devoid of genuine choice. Cue existential angst. But fear not, intrepid thinker. Philosophy doesn't leave us wallowing in despair. Instead, it empowers us to challenge these daunting pronouncements. Does the past really determine everything with absolute certainty? Quantum physics, with its mind-bending probabilities and uncertainties, might beg to differ. And what about consciousness, that mysterious inner world of thoughts, feelings, and desires? Are we truly reducible to complex machines, Or is there something more, something that allows for genuine agency and self-determination? The beauty of philosophy lies in its embrace of ambiguity, its relentless pursuit of truth, and its willingness to wrestle with the big, messy questions that keep us up at night. It's not about finding easy answers or proclaiming absolute truths, it's about the journey of exploration, of challenging assumptions, and of constantly refining our understanding of ourselves in the vast universe we inhabit. But wait, there's more! Philosophy isn't just about cold, hard logic. It's also about the vision thing. A brilliant argument without a clear vision is like a ship without a rudder lost at sea. Understanding the underlying motivations, behind an argument, is crucial to fully grasping its significance. What's the ultimate goal of the philosopher arguing against free will? Are they trying to reduce us to automatons, or are they grapple with deeper issues of morality, responsibility, and the meaning of life? Perhaps the hot dog argument wasn't just about satisfying a craving, maybe it symbolized a yearning for joy, escape, or human connection. So, to sum it all up, philosophy is a dynamic dance between rigorous logic and grand vision. It's about building airtight arguments and then tearing them down, questioning everything, embracing uncertainty, and using reason as our compass to navigate the labyrinth of existence. It's a challenging but immensely rewarding journey that can lead profound insights about ourselves, the universe, and everything in between. And hey, you might even develop a newfound appreciation for a good hot dog analogy along the way. Now go forth and philosophize. Ever feel like the world is a giant puzzle box full of mysteries and contradictions? Like you're constantly searching for the right way to understand things, but the answers keep slipping through your fingers? Well, congratulations, you're already thinking like a philosopher. This course is your invitation to join a centuries-old conversation about the big questions that have always plagued humankind, but in a way that's surprisingly fun, engaging, and maybe even a little bit hilarious. Imagine philosophy as a mental gym where instead of lifting weights, you're lifting ideas. We'll be flexing our brain muscles, examining arguments, and challenging assumptions, all in pursuit of that elusive right way to think about things. But be warned, there are no easy answers in philosophy, only deeper questions. Our journey begins in Scotland, with a philosophical rock star named David Hume. Picture him as the ultimate skeptic, the guy who always questions everything. Hume famously threw a wrench into the philosophical machine by arguing that we can't truly know anything for sure about the world outside our own minds. He used this brilliant and slightly mischievous example of billiard balls. You see one ball hit another and instinctively think, choose an effect. But Hume pointed out that all you really see are two balls moving. You don't actually see the cause itself. Your mind just fills in the blanks. It's like your brain is a master storyteller, constantly creating narratives to make sense of the world. And guess what? Hume applied this radical skepticism to everything from the existence of a consistent self to the very idea of God. Let's just say he wasn't exactly winning any popularity contests with the religious authorities of his time. Think angry mobs in arms around his tomb. But don't despair. Just when you thought the world was dissolving into a sea of uncertainty, along came Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher who was both inspired and deeply disturbed by Hume's skepticism. Imagine Kant as the architect who tries to rebuild the philosophical house after Hume's demolition derby. Kant agreed that we can't just blindly accept things as true, but he refused to believe that knowledge was completely out of reach. He argued that our minds aren't just passive recipients of information, they actively shape how we experience the world. Think of it like this: your brain comes pre-loaded with a special operating system, complete with built-in concepts like space, time, and cause and effect. These aren't just random ideas, they're the fundamental building blocks of reality, according to Kant. It's like the Matrix, but instead of being plugged into a computer program, we're plugged into the structure of our own minds. So who was right? Hume, the skeptic who said we can't know anything for sure? Or Kant, the rationalist who believed our minds hold the key to understanding the universe? That's the million-dollar question, or maybe the billion-dollar question, considering the philosophical implications. We'll delve deeper into their ideas, exploring the fascinating debate between skepticism and reason. We'll wrestle with questions about consciousness, free will, the nature of reality, and the limits of human knowledge. We'll examine arguments, dissect theories, and maybe even develop our own philosophical perspectives. It's going to be a wild ride, full of twists, turns, moments. So, are you ready to unlock the secrets of the universe, or at least try to? Let's get philosophical.